Okay.
I think we're gonna wait because Bradshaw did say he was gonna come on to this.
Did say that.
Well, hopefully Bill is too, because Bill's part of one piece of this.
Oh, probably not because I was just
He was
talking to him.
invited.
Let's try calling Bradshaw then. I'm talking to Bill back and forth right now. So that's why I don't think he knows about this meeting.
Hey, Angel.
Hey, we're trying to go into a meeting. Are you participating with the treasurer meeting?
I see that it's on my calendar, but I wasn't sure if I was required to attend. I'm not sure what the purpose is. I mean, I'm generally aware of what the tax refund that has to go to Avista, but
Yes or no? Do you
yeah, I
want
mean,
to-
I'm trying to get some other stuff done if I'm not needed, but I'll participate if it's necessary.
The treasurer is requesting your participation.
Well, okay then. I guess I better do it.
So,
Okay.
all right. So let's.
Do it for us.
You can Zoom it. She said she sent you an invitation
That came from Veronica.
from Veronica.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Let me figure out. I'm sure it's buried in my inbox somewhere.
All right, bye.
Joy.
All right, I'm hanging up with you.
But I'm not the one that has stuff in my inbox. It's like, my gosh.
And
It's
then
like a
let's.
tidal wave.
Really, you couldn't find a Bradshaw? You're just sitting there like you're exhausted. It's ridiculous. He's sitting here relaxed like. All right, let me just go.
Right?
Right. He still
I don't
didn't.
know where she's going with this.
Apparently, I'm gonna call Bradshaw too and say, hey.
I thought he had a Zoom link, I thought.
Bradshaw, are you gonna go by? Oh my God. Okay, we're gonna do no Bradshaw.
Well, and there won't really be a decision today.
There's
It's
not,
just-
but we should still participate.
I know. That's all I gotta say about that.
Are we gonna get some money from somewhere to pay this, or?
Yeah, depending on what you guys decide to do at budget time, which we'll kind of go over that, because it just has to stay on the radar with auditing. That's why auditing's here, and then the board. So.
Okay. So do we have to call you treasurer since he's not here?
Treasurer. Bill,
Bill?
even
Why-
treasurer.
It's like, whose move is it? We're in the middle of the game.
Which is
Right.
why if you do just this, then you have to do nothing on, just like
Best pieces.
yes. Just rest and recover.
That's right.
Want to just go by phone?
No, I'm actually guys, but I don't see my name reflected on the attendees.
Veronica, do you see Bill? He says he's in the Zoom link staring at us.
Oh, I see him, but I don't know if anybody's let him in.
Okay.
Oh,
All right, there you
Steve's
go.
on.
All right, and there's Steve. All right, okay, thanks. Bye.
Can you hear me now?
We can. It is 12 o'clock and we are here for a meeting with the treasurer regarding Avista, and we'll turn it over to the treasurer.
All right, Clarissa Coster, Bonner County Treasurer for the record. So the whole purpose behind this is Avista, on the electric side, won a judgment for reduced values against the Idaho State Tax Commission. So there are court orders for 2020, 21, and 22 that we have to abide by. They're court-ordered adjustments that have to be made. So we know like the tax part of it and how we're going to handle that. There were lots of different options that were discussed during a state tax commission meeting that was on Zoom. For us, it's only one option, and that's because we have a particular taxing district that no longer levies for 2024. So we actually have to go back and reverse the back payments on the years that are involved. We're going to have to process cancellations, repost the portion that is still ours, and then do the refund checks back to Avista. So we already know how we have to handle it based on that. The one piece that I need Bill to weigh in on has to do with the interest. So in statute, it's very clear, and the order talks about it too. So the legal rate of interest on money due on the judgment of any competent court or tribunal shall be the rate of 5% plus the base rate in effect at the time of entry of the judgment. So the judgment was entered into, one of the years was September, the other two were in November of this year. At that time, the legal rate of interest, according to the Idaho State Treasurer, which is what we have to follow, that's the other part of code here, it was 10.125. Speaking to a representative at Avista, she was like, no, that's too high. This is more of what we were looking at. And basically their interest is what the statutory limits were at each year that's involved. So it's actually a reduced amount of interest that they would like to see. I just don't know if I can go against code and the judgment, even though Avista is saying we don't want that much interest, that was too much at the full 10.125 for all 3 years. So that's where I need Bill to weigh in. Do we have the discretion to negotiate with Avista and take what they are saying, or do we have to follow code? So that's the part. Once I know that answer, I can move forward and bring this back to the board when we're ready to actually cancel, which we're not there yet. It's a little bit of a busy time of the year right now. But I'll give you kind of the general amounts, but I'm looking for Bill to give guidance on if I can accept what Avista is saying, which is much less, or if I absolutely have to follow this code. I know other counties are going off of what Avista is saying.
Hey, Bill, that was written in favor of Avista. It seems like Avista would be in a position to waive part of that rate if they wanted to.
That's my first inclination of that. Yeah, I mean, typically, are we obligated to follow any judgment that is issued by a district or a Supreme Court? Yes, of course. But if that judgment is in favor of a party who's willing to accept something less, well, then I think the only party who would have standing to, basically challenge us if we did less than the judged amount would be that party who's already said that they're okay with a lesser amount. So I'm inclined to say if Avista is willing to be gracious and accept something less than the amount on the judgment, then we should take them up on it.
Can I ask you a question on that? Because I think that should be the case as well. My only risk thought is if there were a changing of the guard who saw an opportunity to say, well, we technically didn't get all of our money, does it make sense for us to do something in writing that reflects that they wrote off that other amount?
Yes,
because if
exactly.
we didn't do that, we're at risk. And I think if in that were to happen, a judge could say, well, we told you what to pay, now you're going to have a penalty or something. So could we do that?
Yeah, that was just my next thought exactly.
Okay.
If we could just get something from them saying, and being gracious and saying, we appreciate the offer. We just would like to have that in some sort of written form so that we feel comfortable doing anything other than what the judgment orders us to do. And if they're willing to just put that in an email or a letter, that would make me feel a lot better about that.
Okay,
Yeah,
and I think that'll be fine. It was Jenny Hunt from Avista that was actually calling all the counties, and she provided me with kind of the rates they were expecting, which are the lesser ones. So I can follow up with her and just confirm that and kind of have the email chain going back and forth that it's final. They're accepting the lesser amount, and I'll just keep all that with my paperwork.
Excellent.
Okay,
Commissioner Bradshaw, you were going to say something?
sorry.
Yeah, I would think that the receiving party would always have the ability to forgive whatever part of the debt they wanted to.
Okay.
Well, one would think, but sometimes when
Makes
you're
sense.
dealing with code and judges'
Right.
orders, just want to make sure that we're
Yeah.
not. Okay.
So then do you want to send whatever you write to Bill to make sure it'll meet that kind of risk assessment
Yeah.
from our end, and then you move forward in that way and then bring it back to us of how much we have to write off?
Yeah.
Okay.
So for right now, though, I'll give you the idea of what we're looking at. So on the county side, with the interest being what Avista is wanting, the county will be hit with approximately 231,000. So I can't give the exact amount because there's like apportionment issues in my amounts. And once we actually process everything, all the apportionments come out and then we're left with the final because there's rounding in the system.
And I think initially we were thinking like 480, somewhere in there.
Well,
Did I
that's
get
that's the total amount owed back to Avista. The county doesn't owe all that. Almost all of our taxing districts, with the exception of a few, are going to be hit with this. So our portion of that is about 231,000. The ambulance district will be hit with just over 22,000.
Okay.
So those are funds that are going to be pulled back once this is all processed and done. So it's going to be a loss of revenue. It's going to be pulled back from their remittances, so they're going to receive that amount less. And from there, because of how this was done, the county, along with the ambulance district and every other taxing district, can do a judgment levy in 2025, or they can stretch it out a little longer, to my understanding. But you will have that option to do a judgment levy to recoup what we have to give back. And so that's why auditing is here, to just keep it on their radar so that when you guys are doing your budgets for 25 and determining all that, that's the time that this has to be dealt with if you're going to levy.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's that part. I am going to say that whatever you do, maybe whatever your decision is, probably Avista is not the only thing that's going to come down the pike. So this is Avista / Idaho Power. In the south, it's Idaho Power. Up here, it's Avista. This is probably going to open a can of worms along with anybody else, like the railroads, where the state sets the values, which the state sets utility values, that are going to try to be going after reduced values. So this may be one of many to come. So however we deal with it, there may be more.
Okay.
So,
Such wonderful news, Carissa.
well, I'm sorry, but I just want to be a realist here and let you know, like, this may not be the end of it.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see where that could domino into other things.
Yeah.
And Carissa, didn't you say that you thought that if it was the railroad would have even a bigger impact, possibly?
Yeah, I mean, Pacific Union and Burlington Northern, they have hundreds and hundreds of miles that run through Bonner County, with every county in the state of Idaho. I mean, if we were looking at, even 300,000 every single time we got hit with one of these, I mean, it starts to add up.
We'll
So-
cross that bridge when it comes.
We'll
or if
cross
it
that
comes.
bridge. I don't know if it'll come, but that's kind of been what's even been talked about at the state level. Like, this may just kind of open up a little box there that all of a sudden the railroads will want to get on board with this as well.
So for me, I would like to make it kind of an understanding that when we do our budget, this topic actually just needs to come up as do we levy. That way it's a point of we reviewed it and we made a decision on it during the opportunity that's available, because I don't want to look back and say we should have done it, because it needs to be considered during the correct time frame. And I just think it just needs to come forward and the board needs to vote on it, because it could be a thing that happens again at the next year for something else?
It very well could. Another piece to this, which once we finalize everything, auditing will have all the numbers. That sheet that you send out to the taxing districts, you're going to have to note this levy amount, what they got hit with.
Yeah.
And we're also probably need to send out a letter, like when you send the remittance checks, we're going to try to have this all completed. I don't know how soon we can have it completed, but a letter that kind of goes out with their remittance checks where this is pulled off, explaining why.
Yeah.
Because that way, if we need to do it again, the community needs to know why we're doing it and that they're up to date, so it's not just a whole.
Well, and even the taxing districts need to know why all of a sudden they're short whatever their amount
Yeah.
is.
The state tax commission is going to be sending a letter, a notification out to all the taxing districts.
Yeah,
They said that we needed to do that. They would provide the guidance,
template.
Oh, right.
yeah,
but then it would come from auditing.
Right.
Yeah.
A uniform letter.
yeah.
Yeah, the state sets the rates, lets us decide how to deal with it and who pays it.
So
Okay.
just putting that
They're so
all.
gracious that way.
All right. Anything else?
Nope, that was it. Just want to share the news.
All
Have
right.
you gotten to the point yet to where you know how hard this is going to hit the other districts, fire districts and library districts? Are you that far yet?
No, we're not that far yet. The total, now that interest is involved in it, just the tax part of it was 457,000 spread out amongst everybody that it needs to be. I don't have final numbers. Vanna and I, we work on this as we can with all the tax collection going on, but we haven't narrowed down every single district, taken their levy by the value that's being pulled and so on. So we'll get there
What county
really
area?
quickly.
Just curious if
Yeah.
that was there yet or not.
But it is.
The county
it
will buy
is-
about half of it.
Yeah. I mean, even for some of our little districts, this is going to be a significant hit. It's going to be a significant hit for any of them, but even for the little ones, it'll hurt a little more probably. So it's unfortunate that it happened, but
I'm sure they're aware it's coming down the pike.
the taxing districts, they may
I don't
not be
think
yet.
so.
Oh, really?
No, because we just found out about this a week and a half ago, and now we have asked the state, okay, how is this all supposed to play out? That's what the Zoom meeting on Friday was about, because they kind of, they won against us, and then here you go. So,
They didn't give you the checkbook with
at
that?
the
Thank you,
busiest
state.
time of the year, so.
Yeah.
But no, a lot of the taxing districts probably aren't aware that this is going to happen. So that's where the state's helping draft a letter that the clerk will need to notify them of.
Okay.
I guess EMS is aware of their $22,000.
No, they're not yet.
Okay.
I wanted to talk to you guys first before,
They'll still owe it.
yeah, it's gonna get pulled back from them.
Okay.
There's nothing we can do about that.
Nope.
So that's gonna hurt them,
That's where
bit
cash
more.
reserve helps. So,
Yeah.
okay. All right.
but that's all I got for now.
Anything else, Commissioner Bradshaw?
No, should we send a thank you and a Christmas card to the state?
Sure.
I
Definitely.
mean,
If you want.
I'll say this,
Commissioner-
it wasn't 100%, they didn't do necessarily anything wrong. They were just
No.
challenged on the way the assessments were done, and they won't, the state tax commission won at the first level of court, but they appealed that to a superior court who kicked it back.
Okay.
Yeah, this is no different
So
if
this is-
somebody
yeah.
wins BOE with our
Right.
assessor's office.
But evidently, the state didn't do something correctly with the assessments.
Well, it's not that they did anything incorrectly. They set the value based on what their criteria is, kind of the same way our assessor's office does.
And that criteria
And
was challenged.
the taxpayer challenged it. They won at the state won at the first level. They lost in district court.
Okay.
So,
So hopefully they're
Marissa?
changing their,
yes, Bill?
Clarissa, can I? Yeah. So I think you alluded to the fact that there might be more of these claims to come. They can only be are there any pending claims from the railroad? Because obviously they can't protest the tax bills that they've already paid, right? So it would only be prospective challenges, right?
Well, not necessarily. Even Avista could come back and challenge 23 and 24 values if they wanted to. They haven't alluded that they're going to do that, but yeah, all these values are up for grab if a taxpayer wants to challenge it and appeal it.
Well, yeah, but I'm saying like Burlington Northern couldn't go, they can't go back in time and challenge years that have already been settled. That's what I'm trying to.
Yeah, they can. Avista's doing 20, 21, and 22. That's what they want.
Didn't they bring those cases in those years and it's just been this long until it got resolved? I guess that's I'm just unfamiliar with their process.
Yeah, I'm not sure how long this has been being disputed with the State Tax Commission. I know it started way back in the spring. I don't know if there was something longer than that.
That might be worth us understanding that answer, because he's trying to get at how far back is the exposure. And then I think that also has to be part of, if there's no further exposure, well, that's one thing, but if there is exposure to go back to 2020 from today's point in time,
I think not. Yeah, I mean, because my premise, just like any property owner that would go to say they challenge their evaluation at BOE, right? They can go to the tax commission or the board of tax appeals, or they can go to the district court. But you can only challenge the year in which you make that, the appeal. So assuming that the railroads haven't done that for previous years, I would assume that just like any other property owner, they're stuck with whatever those assessments and taxes for the previous years were, but it might encourage them to be more aggressive in the years to come. That's what I'm suggesting.
Well, no, and I understand what you're saying. I'm just, obviously, there's got to be a different thing here with the utilities, because these judgments are for 2020, 21, and 22 that they're going back on. So I don't know if there's a different process when the state actually sets the values.
Yeah, and they would have had to appeal it within their time frame. Right,
so I'm
Bill?
saying we should confirm, so what I'm saying is, based on Bill's question, we should confirm how far back from today's point in time someone can go, because when we're doing our budget, we should have that in consideration of if there's exposure for us having to make a payment like this, and more notification of this is a realistic outcome based on how far back. If Bill's right and they can't go any farther back, and this actually started in 2020, 21, or 22, then we don't have to worry about it. But if they can go back, I think we owe it in our budget discussion, especially when we're talking about contingency. Do we need to put more in that bucket to address this potential type of payout? I think that's what, and I think he's saying he's more confident that you can, and I'm saying we have the ability to know the answer by knowing when was this actual filing.
Well, and I can reach back out to the State Tax Commission for clarification of when these appeals started and see what the answer is, and then possibly have a follow-up question.
And that would help us if we did decide that we were going to go and levy, that we can tell also the exposure of the county as a whole, and when the drip stops kind of a feeling.
Right.
No. I think there's going to be a lot of people pushing levies coming up, and people need to have as much information as possible as to which to choose and which not to choose, versus just the blanket no levy
Well,
idea.
and one thing about the judgment levy, as far as recouping from this, it doesn't have to be voter approved.
Yeah.
So,
but
yes,
public opinion
I know,
approved is a
public
problem.
opinion,
So
for
I mean,
sure.
it's
I'm
there's
just saying we don't have to go
yeah.
through that same process.
Okay.
It doesn't make it any better. We're going to have some money, but
Got 2 years before you have to run again. So
And the judgment levy also doesn't affect our cap.
Yeah.
So it doesn't change our.
Okay. Anything else, Commissioner Korn?
No.
Commissioner Bradshaw?
no, I'm good.
All
Thank you,
right.
Larissa.
With that, it is 12:23, and we'll adjourn this meeting.